two student observers who are going to be student teachers in the spring. Also in with us, Mr. Tirzo and Miss Sarah Keller. And I think we've got a pretty full group here. So class, Mr. Robbins, Mr. Jack Robbins is a professor out at Northwest Vista. And Hayden Keller, one of our students down in our Zoom here, is did his documentary. We all have had documentaries due, and Hayden's documentary was over one of Mr. Robbins' sculptures that's public artwork along the Leon Creek Greenway. I hope I have that all correct. Is anybody fact checking me? Make sure I'm not getting away with saying anything. All right, so we should be screen sharing, and y'all can pop up your video after this video completes so we can see faces, whether it's appropriate for y'all. If you can, pop up your video after we complete watching the video. But I'm gonna go ahead and start it. Y'all should be, are y'all looking at it right now? I hope I have my share screen set up right. All right. Here we go.
Jack Robbins is a visual arts professional. His art includes many private and public works. Their work has been shown at many museums, such as the Dallas Museum of Art, the Fort Worth Museum of Modern Art, and the Amarillo Art Museum. He's affiliated with many groups, like his group called the Robbins Project, which he has been running for about 15 years. He's an associate professor at Northwest Vista College, which he has done for 10 years. He got his Master's of Fine Art at the University of Texas at San Antonio and his Bachelor of Fine Art at the University of North Texas. He's done many styles of art, from glass mosaics to sculptures. From what I have found, he's been doing art since 1989. The work of art I will be discussing today is a sculpture called Butterfly. Butterfly is a 12-foot tall galvanized steel structure. It is a big center column surrounded by snub-nosed butterfly silhouette that progressively gets closer to a column as it goes up. You can see this in this video that I took of the structure. Butterfly is on the Leon Creek Greenway by Prue Road. The sculpture is supposed to represent the flowing water of the creek and the pedestrians walking along the path. The way the silhouettes are placed makes it look like the butterflies are moving or flowing like the water. And since the butterflies are all coming together, it alludes to the fact that people in the community should as well. Jack Robbins seems to have a theme that stretches across all of his art in San Antonio. That theme is community. His other works of art in San Antonio consist of his glass mosaic he did for the Rainbow Hills Community Center and his pop-up book style background he did for the Brook Hollow Public Library. The work he has done in San Antonio has been for his community. It seems like he wants to spread positive messages, like how we should all come together just like the butterflies. In his Rainbow Hills mosaic, it's like our community is the vine that brings us all together. Jack Robbins may not be a huge artist, but I feel the messages he wants to spread still come through loud and clear. I have seen his statue before, but now when I see it, I am reminded of his messages and reminded that we really should come together as a community to fix whatever problems we may have in it. He completed Butterfly in 2012.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the share. All right, fantastic. Did we get a lot of true facts there, Jack? How'd the student do?
Oh, yeah, he did great.
I
was very impressed.
Cool. I hope all the facts check out. But Hayden is with us in class, and I wondered if any students after watching the video, I'm going to give about 30 seconds pause here, and anybody can interrupt my 30-second pause with a question or comment to Jack Robbins about the sculpture. And this class is really good at this. They're probably not going to take very long to pop up with a question for you.
Actually, I did have a question. So like, I know in the video it says like what your like the intention of it was, but what was your real meaning of like the sculpture?
On the butterfly sculpture?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's actually a sculpture that's based on an actual butterfly. Its common name is a snout nose butterfly, and it's found in this area, you know, in the San Antonio area. And I did research on it. I you know, worked with some folks over at the Texas A&M in College Station, the entomology department, on finding out as much information as I could about that specimen. And then I did research on, you know, where the specimens could be found besides, of course, San Antonio. And the other component to the sculpture that you know, I'm going to share with you, and I really wish that there was more information about the sculpture there at the site, is that if you look at the fence that's right there by the sculpture, you'll see some shapes that are attached to the fence, a variety of different shapes, and they're made of the same material that the butterfly sculpture is made out of, and they have the same you know, metal coating, you know, so they reflect, and they also continue that art element into other parts of the site there at Prue Road. And what I'm sharing with you is that the specific meaning behind those metal plates is that they're composed of shapes of the various Texas counties where you will find these specific butterflies. And they're also meant to reference a migration. The butterflies actually migrate through those counties. And so there's a lot of, I guess, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but there's a lot of scientific information and geographical information connected with the sculpture. So it really references a lot of other, you know, activities and elements of nature. Besides being, I like this, the students' expression about the idea of community and the idea that the sculpture represents all of us coming together and collaborating. I like that a lot. I hope I answer your question.
That's a very good answer, especially during these times. Things of community are really important because we feel so detached from our communities. That's a very relevant sculpture for today and the way things are going. And nice to share that. I'm going to put up a picture of it on the screen share. Does anybody else have any observations or questions?
How did you form like the shape of the butterfly?
Each one of the butterflies was formed with a very a machine called a press, and it's the one that I used. The machine itself probably weighs about, I would say about 5 to 8 tons. and it's very large. It's almost I don't want to say it's the same size as a typical 3-bedroom home, but it's very large, and that's what I used, to form the different folds in the metal to make the butterflies. The actual shape of the butterflies was done with a process called water jet cutting.
That's kind of similar to a plasma cutter, but it's done with high pressure water. And they use that a lot in metal fabrication now because it's so accurate and so precise. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. There's a number of different aspects to water jet cutting that are much more advantageous than even plasma cutting. But the technology and the accuracy of plasma cutting just in the last 2 to 5 years has really increased and gotten a lot better than it was, even 5 years ago. So plasma is much better, but I use the water jet because of the accuracy, you're correct. And also the edges, when the metal is shaped with the water jet, the edges are very smooth. And I had to be concerned with that because children and different, both adults and children would be interacting with the sculpture and brushing against it and rubbing against it. And I didn't want anyone to get cut. So I had to make sure that all of the edges were very smooth, and the water jet managed that issue with no problem.
I'm going to interrupt the next student. I'm going to stop them from saying anything. I was saying I wanted to ask real quick. I noticed the way that the elements would fall, like rain, would fall down the backs of the butterflies. And I know that was deliberate on your part. But has there been anything with that has added to the sculpture, you believe? I mean, I appreciate that. And it was something I noticed right away was, how is water going to fall on this? And I say that with a smile because I just absolutely really like that aspect of it. If it didn't work, I would wonder why the artist didn't consider that. So it's like, to me, that's like a really important thing. But would you speak on that for a moment before the next student asks their question?
Yeah. So there's actually a number of different components to that, because I struggled when I was first working with this concept, because I wanted each one of the butterflies to have this really wonderful kind of variegated pattern and visual surface, not necessarily a textured surface, but a visual pattern variegation. And I didn't really know how to do that. And I looked at a few different approaches to that. A couple of technicians suggested, using some water jet to cut some patterns into the butterflies, etc. But I decided instead to arrange them so that my hope was that the sun would fall on them in certain ways and create these wonderful kinds of shapes and shadows. The variegation that happened from the rainfall was really just a happy accident.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it really worked out well.
That's great. And any students, I'm leaving it open for any students to ask any questions or provide any comments on the sculpture. Who else has seen it? Maybe somebody let us know who's seen it. Mr. Tirzo, yes.
I actually wanted to ask, if I may, what is the maintenance on that? Is it coated, so that it won't rust, or like at some point will it, need to have maintenance in person?
Oh, that's a great question. one of the things when you're building public sculpture or public art, one of the elements that you have to consider is maintenance. And the folks that are commissioning these sculptures, you'll go to a number of different meetings over a long period of time, and that topic will come up over and over again, especially during the design phase. You know, they'll ask you, well, you know, have you considered maintenance? What's your ideas in context of maintenance? And so that's when I make works of public art, I build maintenance into it as part of the thinking, you know, and design process. This one, of course, it's a metal sculpture. I had to consider a number of different things like, you know, durability, and then people interacting with it, touching it, maybe trying to bend it, etc. So I had to take those technical aspects into account. I had each one of the elements coated with a process known as galvanizing, and it's a dip. And the galvanizing should last with no problem 30, 40, 50 years if it's not, you know, like, you know, scratched, like somebody takes some kind of implement and scratches it. As long as the surface of the galvanizing remains intact and not scratched or dented or in any way, you know, compromised, it'll last for a long time, much longer than paint. That's why I chose the metal galvanizing. It's very expensive. It's a much more time-consuming process, but the end result is worth all that effort, because it'll stay out there for years and years and retain that wonderful finish. And it'll actually start to create its patina, like what's happening with the rain on the butterflies. It'll keep, that will continue to be enhanced by the mere fact that it's outdoors and getting rained on and exposed to the elements.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you took the time to, you know, salvage it for a long time. So thank you for that answer.
Yeah, I just wanted to share with you that the city spoke to me back, this is back last fall before COVID, and they were telling me that they and some other municipal entities were talking about moving that sculpture. And I asked them, I said, well, why, first of all, why would you want to move it? And they said, well, people are starting to, you know, contact them about why they can't go over and touch it and look at it and stand around it, etc. If you've been over to it, you know what the issue is, which is there's nowhere to park. There's no way to get out of your car. The only way you can access the sculpture is if you're, you know, on the green, pretty much on the greenway, on the bike path, etc. So they want to put it somewhere where people can, you know, access it and be around it, etc. But I don't know where all that is because of COVID and because of all the other things that would go into, you know, the idea of moving a sculpture like that, because that sculpture weighs about 4 tons. It's not light at all, and it's very hard to move it. It takes one of the largest mobile cranes that you can rent to even move it. That's what I had to rent to install it. It's very heavy. So I hope it stays there for a long, long time. But like I said, people are already talking about moving it. So I don't know.
Well, I think the great part is that since it is already a sculpture, you know, it's not like it's already galvanized, it's protected. So it should be, whether it moves or not, as long as it lasts those 30, 50 years, I think that's great for you.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the outcome. You know, when you well, the way that I work is that sculpture that you see there starts out as a very small model. In fact, a model, you know, like this is a model for another project, but it's like a model that starts out about this size, real small. And so all the measurements, all the cuts, you know, everything that you see on that life-size sculpture, all those dimensions are taken off of a scale model. And then we actually take them and, you know, scale it first with a scaling ruler, and then take it up into actual, you know, from small, like 1/8 inch equals, I think on that one, I think it's 1/4 inch on that model. 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. So it's like you're talking about a very small measurement that's going to end up being, you know, like 4 feet wide, etc. It's an interesting process. That's the process that I use. Not everybody uses that process. I really like to have things more hands-on. I could have built the entire model and done the entire sculpture in like SketchUp, a program like SketchUp, or even I could have done it even in Illustrator. But the thing is that and I work in both those programs, but when you design things in those programs, it's not tactile. You know, it's not 3D. So you know what I could do with the models, I could light it and I could, you know, move it around. I could get, you know, look up at it. I could look down at it. And so it helped me realize the sculpture. And that's the method that I use.
Great, great. That's really cool. You also, in addition to teaching Arts 1301 at Northwest Vista, you also teach some sculpture. Is that correct?
Yes, I teach sculpture at Northwest Vista College. We only offer one section of sculpture, and we plan to offer one section in the spring. And you know, of course, as you guys know, everything changes from day to day, but it's in the schedule. People are signing up for it. And so I'm going to run it in the spring. It's going to have a very limited, you know, class size because of COVID.
Right.
And we'll be working outside most of the time.
The nice thing about this group of students who, some of them who are seniors will be eligible to take in-person classes next fall at Northwest Vista. And that'd be an opportunity for them if they really like being exposed to some of the sculptural possibilities, is the ability to attend that class if they complete their Arts 1301 requirements. Maybe they can start taking some other art classes out at Vista. Vista will probably get a big surge as soon as people start going back to in-person instruction, because a lot of students will still be kind of staying at home, not venturing out yet, but in the fall, Vista will be a very nice opportunity for them to still kind of remain close to home and still get to go attend in person. So that's a neat opportunity. Vista's art department, y'all who have never seen it, is really incredible. It's almost like a campus in itself. It's just like a whole high school size place of nothing but art and fine arts classes. And some of their studios are just amazing. I really wish I could get an opportunity to work in some of those. So if y'all haven't been out there, I normally do some kind of a field trip out to Northwest Vista, but we can't do that this year. I haven't even met any of y'all in person except for Oscar. I think it's the only student, and he's not here right now. Oscar's about the only one I've met in person. So it'd be really neat to keep that in mind as possibilities for the fall. Did anybody else have any questions that came up about arts at Northwest Vista or Mr. Robbins' sculpture? Or any questions for Mr. Robbins?
I have one more question. So, like the way the sculpture was made, was it supposed to, I don't know if this is like an intention or anything, but this is kind of like how I feel about the sculpture. Is it like is it supposed to show like how the advancement of technology is affecting the wildlife?
So I want to make sure I understand your question. You're asking, does the images that is represented by the sculpture, is that conveying a statement about the environment and technology?
Yes, sir.
Huh. Yeah, I thought about when I was in the design process for the sculpture, one of the things that you do as a public artist is you do these what I call community presentations. And what you do is you'll go to like a public space, like a library, for instance, and you'll give a presentation about the project and about some of your ideas. And then you'll ask the audience, the community members, if they would like to make suggestions to you about things that they would like for you to approach or to include in your artwork, things that might be important to the community. And one of the consistent messages that came to me from the community in those presentations was nature. They wanted me to make sure that I addressed nature and the importance of nature in our community. And so, at the time when I was doing that presentation, I hadn't even completely finalized my my concept for the sculpture that you see. So it was a great moment for them to be offering those ideas. The answer to your question is the direct answer is no. I was not making a statement about technology impacting nature or the snout-nosed butterflies. The main statement that's underlying the sculpture is that these butterflies are doing a migration, and that migration happens to go through Leon Creek. And I wanted people to be aware of this important event that occurs on a regular basis in that natural area. And through that awareness, I was hoping that conservation efforts would then start to take place. And that was really the strength, I think, of my idea, was that I could underscore the idea of conservation of nature. I hope that helped answer your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you, sir.
I like that. I was thinking about the fact of maintaining its location encourages foot traffic down in that greenway. By maintaining its location, in order for people to get a better look, they actually should go and visit the greenway. And that has been a community push for a long time, is increasing the use of the greenway, which is beautiful. And anybody who hasn't been down a section of it, a bicycle can easily travel the full 10 miles that I've done from Ingram Mall. The Via pickup at Ingram Mall is, I think, the matrix or point of origin for the trail, and it extends out. Is it beyond I-10 and 1604 now, or is it still stopping at I-10, 1604?
No, it's beyond, and it's beyond I-10, 1604. In fact, some folks contacted me, and this was a couple of months ago. They had been out to La Cantera,
Wow,
and the rim, and if you go up Leon Creek you know, like what you're talking about, say you started at the sculpture and you kept going north on the hike and bike path, you would travel through an area that, as I understand it, Valero Energy paid all of the money that it was going to take to create the hike and bike path extension up all the way to Leon Creek, which is amazing. And, you know, hats off to Valero Energy for doing that. I mean, that's incredible. So it goes up past the rim, and the folks that contacted me said it's really beautiful up there. So you might want to check it out.
A good activity for everyone to do next week. Pass each other 6 feet away on the Leon Creek Greenway. That's really a good outdoor opportunity while the weather is so beautiful outside. I encourage anybody, if you have a bicycle, like I said, you could easily do the whole thing on a bicycle. 10 miles on a bicycle is really nothing. A lot of people think it's a lot, but 10 miles on a bicycle is very doable. Or you can hike sections of it at a time. Those of you who are really, really outdoor enthusiasts might be able to hike the whole thing, but I wouldn't do it without somebody I could call or getting an Uber just in case I didn't feel like the return trip. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions?
I do have at least one more question myself for Mr. Robbins. So the first question is, the sculpture class, you taught it this fall, correct?
This sculpture class was not offered this fall semester because of COVID, but I talked to the vice president and the dean and the chair of my department and strongly encouraged them to let me offer a section of sculpture in the spring. And at first they were real, you know, they said, no, we're not going to do that. But finally, around the middle to end of October, they agreed that it would be okay. And their reasoning is that a lot of the things that we do and that students learn in sculpture, you can only learn, you can only experience in person, 3D, not on the internet. So yeah, starting in spring, I'm going to bring it back.
The reason I made sure if you had taught it or not is because I was going to ask, if it was virtual, what materials did you maybe recommend, or if it I mean, I know, like you mentioned, it has to be in person. It's one of those experience first things. But if there was no other way in an alternative universe, what materials would you recommend? Would it be maybe just wires, or what other kind of materials would you recommend to try to make sculptures? Would it be small scale? How would you adapt to that if it had to be virtual?
Sure. Well, that's a great question. And the answer is really clear, because I had to actually do what you're talking about, starting at the very end of February. Well, actually the first week of March of last spring, they basically told me, do not come back to campus. And I was already running a 3D sculpture class. And I said, okay. And they told me, you have to convert your 3D sculpture class to online. And so basically I had to do what you're talking about. I had to convert all of the projects from that point forward to online projects. So the answer to your question is I would do online demos of handheld materials. We used like a malleable, for one project, we used like this malleable plastic where you could form it and make sculptures with it. There's a number of different projects that worked out in that scenario, but that was one that we used. We made in one project, we made a sculpture out of marshmallows. And I also wanted to do a sculpture with balloons or things that you could, you know, cobble together and then blow up with air, but we ran out of time.
That marshmallow project seems to be number one on my list.
It was fun. And then you know, you could eat it at the end if you wanted. So
Oh,
I don't know if anybody did.
So, you know, I'm glad that you got through it, and hopefully you have a lot of success in the spring with that as well.
Yeah, yeah. And they told me, the dean told me, he said, well, we're going to give you the green light to run your sculpture class in the spring. And I said, oh, good, you know, yay. And they said, but remember, always remember that at any point we could shut it down and you'll have to go back online. And they said, are you okay with that? I said, that's fine with me. So, you know, if something happens, I may have to go back to marshmallows. We'll see. But everybody had a good time, and we learned a lot. And in the online scenario, what's great about it is I can treat it more like and I know Mr. Frankie will know about this, but I treat it more like what we call a graduate studio. Like when you're a student at a university, you can take graduate seminars, and that's what I treat it like, a graduate studio seminar, where I would bring in, you know, like guest artists and, you know, talk about advanced and very edgy approaches to art making and sculpture.
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't had a chance to see what things are like these days with classes like that. But like the last class I took was in '99 when I was still working on my master's. Back then, when you submitted something over the internet, it couldn't be large enough to do any good for an art major. So I had to FedEx most of my master's work. When I couldn't drive it to the university, I'd have to FedEx it or ship it. So distance learning back then was really different. I mean, it's a good thing this stuff didn't happen back then, because I get frustrated when file sizes limit me now, but back then, your file size couldn't be more than just words.
Yeah. Yeah. It was different. Yeah. Yeah. Like slides. Remember those? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And we'd have to go out like at noon to photograph any artwork. And now 5,000K light booths are just everywhere. And back then you had to go someplace special to get the right kind of light, or just photograph at noon and hope for the best.
I know.
Sorry to bore all of you young people out there with all these old problems we used to deal with. And then if something was wrong with your film, oh my goodness, then you were put back a whole week on when something could be turned in. Okay. Yeah, that's when I was doing paintings for my master's, I'd have to photograph them and send photos FedEx to the university of the paintings I was working on, so that I didn't have to make trips every week to the university, being out of town.
Wow. That's a lot of work.
It was, but of course we all know it was worth it.
Oh, sure.
Uh,
Definitely.
I'm trying to get, I think I've got a picture of the group here. I wanted to save a photo of the group, and I think I got it. One more just to be safe. There we go. Little print screen action, and appreciate you joining us. Appreciate the students asking questions. Is anybody holding on to a question real quick? But I want to let Mr. Robbins get back to work. Does anybody have any questions? No lingering questions. Really appreciate it. If y'all think of any more, I will definitely email them to him. really appreciate you joining us today, Mr. Robbins. It means a lot to us. You're our second guest artist this semester. So you're only number 2, but you really appreciated for you joining us. I think this does a lot to enhance this. There's just no way to do field trips right now. There's no way to do a lot of the things we normally do, but this is a treat we couldn't normally coordinate. This is something that would be so hard to coordinate except for the current circumstances. So it's easy for you to pop in, spend 20 minutes with us or 30 minutes with us, and then not feel like you have to find a parking space or get a visitor pass or any of the things that are complicated with field trips or me reserving a bus. So thank you very much. We appreciate your time so much, and I'll forward any other questions to you. And we'd really like to hear from you if you have any other projects that you want our opinions on. We'd really enjoy that.
Hey, can I share my screen real quick?
Please do. Please do.
You'll have to enable it.
Let's see. Let's see if I'm sorry, I didn't. How do I? Let me try to do that. Spotlight, stop video, mute, pin, make co-host. It says I can make you co-host, but
Yes.
Okay, I just did that. Do you see?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to show you guys something.
Saw it for a second there.
Do you see that image?
Does the class see the image? Okay, good, good.
Yeah, can you see that?
Yes, yes, I do.
Yeah, I was in Houston last week, and working on a little project I had going on there. And on Sunday, day before yesterday, I went over to the MFA, the Houston Museum, and they have they've been working for a few years on a new building. And the building is called the Kinder Building. It's primarily for contemporary art. If you've been to the Houston MFA, you'll know that they have a limited amount of space for contemporary art. But they built this new building, and it had a soft opening on Sunday. And then I think on the 21st, next Sunday, it opens to the public for the first time ever.
Wow.
And this is an image of the entryway it's the underground entryway from the old museum. So when you leave the old museum to go into the new museum, you go through this tunnel. And it's really, really cool. And when I was talking about contemporary art, if you look at the very end of the tunnel, there's a guy down there working on the entryway. I'm not sure what he was doing, but right behind him is a very large scale Martin Poirier sculpture.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it is cool. So I wanted to make sure that I showed you guys that.
Thanks for the preview. Yeah, we'll have to find a way to get any credit for anybody who makes their way to Houston to go check that out. If y'all haven't been to the MFA, that's a meeting place where I get to meet some of my old professors. They live in Houston now, and we join up at the art museums every few years and learn new things from old professors and share our thoughts. It's kind of a neat little reunion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I really took a chance. They really weren't letting, any of the public, down there to see any of this, but I was able to sneak in, grab a quick shot, and I'm sharing it with everybody so that you don't have to wait until, Sunday or whenever the next time you go to Houston. This this is what it looks like to go in there.
Excellent.
It's really fantastic. Okay. Well, that was fun. And I really appreciated meeting everybody. Hopefully I'll see you in the near future soon. And if I don't, have a super great holiday and a super great rest of the fall semester. And maybe I'll see you in the spring
Yes,
if things work out.
yes.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks again. So very nice.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Very nice. Thank you so much. And thank you, class.